Nick Fagnano waded 50 feet into the water at Venice Beach. It was a gray, drizzly Sunday, nothing that looked like danger. The storm wasn't even over him. It was miles off, a smear of dark cloud out past the pier. He was 20 years old, home for the summer, about to transfer to USC to study urban development. He just wanted to rinse the sand off before heading home. He never made it out of the water. And here's the part that should unsettle you. The lightning never touched him directly. The ocean did that on its own. To understand how, you have to stop thinking of the sea as a place a storm passes over. For a few seconds, it becomes part of the storm itself, an invisible, expanding net of electricity racing across the surface faster than you can react. And the strangest part is what it does and doesn't kill. A swimmer 200 feet away can go into cardiac arrest. A fish 6 feet beneath that same swimmer won't feel a thing. Same wave, same instant, two completely different outcomes. That's the story we're following. One afternoon in 2014 that still explains exactly how this net catches people, and why so few of us know it's there. July 27th, 2014. Venice Beach, Los Angeles. More than 20,000 people were spread across the sand that day. Surfers out in the swells, volleyball games running up and down the shoreline. In California, the odds of ever being killed by lightning are about 1 in 7.5 million. People don't come to a Los Angeles beach worried about a thunderstorm. The sky that afternoon wasn't dramatic. No dark wall of cloud, no distant thunder rolling in for an hour like a warning. Just a mild gray drizzle, the kind you barely notice. At around 2:20 that afternoon, Nick decided to rinse off. He and his friends had been out all day. 50 feet of water between him and the sand didn't feel like a risk. It wasn't supposed to be. The storm never felt close enough to matter. That was exactly the problem. Then it happened. A rogue cloud carrying an enormous electrical charge had drifted in off the coast with almost no warning. A massive bolt struck the water near the Venice Pier. On the sand, people felt current shoot up through the wet sand into their legs. Hair stood on end from the static in the air. The sound was described like a bomb going off, rattling windows blocks away. But the real danger wasn't in the air or even in the sand. It was in the water, and to understand why, picture pouring a barrel of oil into a swimming pool. The oil doesn't sink. It spreads out fast and thin right across the top. Salt water does almost the same thing to a lightning strike. The current doesn't plunge toward the seafloor. It races outward from the impact point, low and flat, in a widening hemisphere across the surface. Physicists call this the skin effect. And in seawater, it happens almost instantly. The strength of that current fades the farther it travels, but the initial power is so enormous that faded can still mean lethal. Hundreds of feet out. 50 feet from the strike wasn't outside the net, it was deep inside it. By the time anyone on the beach understood what had happened, the current had already found him. Here's why the water is more dangerous than the sky. Electricity, like a crowd leaving a packed stadium, takes the path of least resistance. Salt water is a wide open exit, thousands of times more conductive than a human body. So almost all of a strike's current pours straight through the water itself, but almost all still leaves a fraction. And when the crowd is 30,000 amperes strong, even a sliver of it moving through your chest is catastrophic. At 10 to 16 milliamperes, human muscles lock into what's called tetanic contraction. You can't let go, you can't kick, you can't swim. Picture your brain as a pilot, and your arms and legs as the controls. Normally you think swim, and your body obeys. Now imagine someone jamming those controls mid-flight. The pilot is still there, still awake, still trying. The machinery just won't respond. At 50 to 100 milliamperes, the heart itself starts to fail, its fibers twitching independently instead of beating as one. A swimmer doesn't need a direct hit for any of this. They just need to be standing in the current's path when it passes through. It took rescuers 30 minutes to find him. Nick was found floating face down, the only person who didn't survive that afternoon. 13 others in and around the water were shocked, some critically injured, and a few feet beneath every one of them, the ocean stayed completely calm. That's the detail that surprises people most. You'd expect a strike like that to kill everything nearby, all the way down. It doesn't. The current spreading across the surface loses almost all its strength within about 3 meters, roughly the shallow end of a diving pool. Fish swimming just below that line are shielded from something that a few feet higher is strong enough to stop a human heart. The ocean doesn't distribute a lightning strike evenly. It skims it across the top like that oil on water, and whatever swims below the skin never even knows it happened. Zoom out from one beach, and the same property that made that stretch of water lethal turns out to shape lightning across the entire planet. Saltwater isn't just a good conductor for the current after a bolt lands. It's part of what makes ocean lightning so powerful in the first place. The dissolved salt in seawater lets storm clouds drain their charge faster and more completely than they can over land, which is part of why some of the most intense lightning ever recorded strikes almost exclusively over open ocean. The sea isn't a stage the storm happens to be standing on. For those few seconds, it's wired into the circuit. We build our sense of safety around distance, stay back from the water, stay back from the storm, and you're fine. But if you could actually see that current the way it really moves, a flat, silent net spreading out from the strike faster than you could ever swim away from it, would 50 feet or 200 still feel far enough? The next time a storm rolls in anywhere near open water, the danger isn't only what's falling from the sky. It's already moving through the water around you, long before you'd ever see it coming.